The chrome-trimmed walls of Ridgeview Dynamics' executive boardroom gleamed under harsh LED lights as I sat at the far corner of the long glass table, quietly taking notes, just as I had for the past 8 years. My screensaver, a peaceful image of Lake Michigan at sunrise, flickered faintly as I typed. It was the only serene thing in the room. And now? The matter of the anonymous buyer, said CEO Donovan West, his voice thick with condescension and self-importance. Someone's been acquiring a controlling interest in Ridgeview through a network of untraceable shell entities. I didn't flinch. My notes were done 10 minutes ago. The encrypted files detailing Phoenix Bridge Capital's 49% stake acquisition, my holding company, rested quietly on a remote drive, time to release in sync with the next board update. Cassidy West, Donovan's daughter and head of brand strategy, turned to me with her usual syrupy disdain. "Lena, be a doll and grab some of that proper espresso from the exec lounge, not the drip stuff from the intern station." "Of course, Miss West." I glanced down at my discreetly luxurious Jaeger-LeCoultre watch beneath my sweater cuff. "And maybe grab those imported macarons," added CFO Brent Halden, the same man who'd once laughed me out of the strategy incubator, saying I lacked the aggression for leadership. If only he knew that his dismissal had birthed the billion-dollar venture fund now breathing down their necks. "Don't mess up the coffee this time," Cassidy quipped. "Dad takes oat milk, not almond." "Details matter, Lena," Donovan said without looking up. "It's why some of us sit at this table and some of us serve it." Yes, I knew. Details were everything, like the off-ledger bonuses, the stock options shuffled to board favorites, and the chain of gender-based rejections I had archived meticulously. The same evidence that would bolster my takeover announcement next quarter. "Oh, Lena," Donovan called just as I reached the glass doors, "look into this Phoenix Bridge outfit. See what you can find. Use your little secretary tricks." I held back a smile. "I'll do my best, sir." James chuckled. "It's probably some graybeard Silicon Valley ghost. Guys like that don't show up until the ink's dry." Cassidy didn't look up. "Actually, I heard it's a syndicate out of Singapore. Daddy, we should really hear them out." "They'd hear us out, all right. But first, they'd learn who I really was." The share price has been slipping. And then came the fiasco with the Langston contract. The Langston contract. My chest tightened just recalling it. 6 months ago, I'd watched them sabotage a $50 million 0-cents deal I had spent half a year structuring. I had outlined the risks in detail, flagged the compatibility gaps in the platform specs, even arranged a fallback clause. They ignored it all. The contract slipped through our fingers and straight into the hands of our largest competitor. That was the moment I knew Ridgeview Dynamics needed new leadership. I returned to the boardroom with their coffee, placing each cup with clinical precision. 2 oat milks, 1 black, and Cassidy's extra sweet vanilla. 8 years of service had taught me everything. Their tastes, their blind spots, and most importantly, their secrets. "How long's Lena been here again?" Donovan asked, stirring his cup without looking at me. 6 years? 7? 8 years, 2 months, and 6 days, I replied smoothly. Cassidy laughed. "Still answering phones, though. Not everyone's cut out to lead." "Exactly," Brent added. "It takes instinct, fire, like this Phoenix Bridge crew. Brilliant maneuvering. Whoever's behind that firm knows exactly what they're doing." My phone buzzed softly in my jacket pocket, a notification from my private banker. "Final acquisition complete. You now hold 51% equity in Ridgeview Dynamics." They continued on, blind to what was coming. "And when their rep shows," Donovan said, "let them in. No small talk, Lena. Try not to pitch your little, startup circle?" They always called it that, startup circle. As if my private tech incubator hadn't birthed 3 IPOs, 2 acquisitions, and now a holding firm they couldn't stop talking about. Another buzz. "Documents ready. Proceed when ready." From my attorney. I rose slowly, smoothing my black shift dress. Clean lines, no jewelry, just quiet power. "Mr. West," I began, voice calm, Before your meeting begins, there's something you should know about Phoenix Bridge. Cassidy waved a hand dismissively. Lena, please, let the grown-ups talk. Yes, Lena, Donovan sighed, visibly irritated. What could you possibly know? Without another word, I tapped a button on my phone. The conference room screen came to life. The Phoenix Bridge logo appeared, followed by the board roster, followed by my name. Lena Rao, founder and chairwoman. Silence fell. My smile was quiet, calculated. Now, I said, let's begin. On the screen behind me, the portfolio of Phoenix Bridge Capital unfurled. Dozens of thriving tech ventures, billions in diversified assets. And at the center, a bold stock chart showing Ridgeview dynamics under Phoenix's controlling interest. I folded my hands and took my place at the head of the table. Calm, precise. I believe, I said, it's time we discuss the future of Ridgeview dynamics. The silence was suffocating. Every coffee cup paused mid-air. Cassidy's jaw dropped, her perfectly contoured lips forming a silent O. Brent's complexion paled to chalk. This is some kind of prank, Donovan West muttered, barely audible. No prank, I replied, flipping open my laptop as the Phoenix Bridge logo glowed from the screen. Although I understand your confusion, it's difficult to accept that the assistant you've overlooked for 8 years is the very investor you've spent the last 6 weeks groveling to meet. Cassidy's coffee cup clattered, splashing across her cream blazer. She didn't even react, just stared at me, stunned. But you drive a Corolla, Brent stammered, and your apartment, your shoes. I shop at department stores, and I live modestly. Funny how people miss what matters when they're too busy measuring status by stitching and logos. The room's energy shifted. The air, once thick with arrogance, now quivered with panic. Donovan's face flushed deep crimson. Cassidy frantically dabbed at her blouse with trembling hands. This can't be, Brand gasped, flipping through the legal documents I'd just distributed. Phoenix Bridge has acquired 30 tech firms this year. Their assets are in the billions. You're just a secretary? I offered, watching the word land like a slap. Let's talk history. Tapped another key. A new document appeared on screen. This is the proposal I submitted 5 years ago, the one you dismissed, Brent. You said I lacked the vision to lead. Recognition flickered in his eyes. Yes, the adaptive AI framework for enterprise optimization, I continued. The same platform now powering over half of Phoenix Bridge's portfolio. The same one Ridgeview could have owned. If anyone at this table had seen past my title. Daddy, Cassidy whispered, her voice thin with panic. Do something. She can't just take Ridgeview. Actually, I said, pulling up the final ownership certificate, I can. I looked around the room. And I didn't just walk in. I've been here all along, watching you drain this company while treating your staff like they're invisible. Donovan slammed his hand against the table. Now see here, Lena. Miss Rowe, I interrupted sharply. Or, if you prefer, Chairwoman Rowe. If you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or told to stay in your place, subscribe to the channel, because in the next part you'll see exactly how Lena Rowe turns the boardroom tables for good. New position? Donovan's face went from crimson to ash in seconds. I distributed a fresh set of folders, placing one in front of each stunned executive. Effective immediately, I said clearly. You are being removed as CEO of Ridgeview Dynamics. Gasps. Silence. Even the air conditioning hum seemed to pause. This afternoon's board vote will confirm the change, though with 51% of voting shares under my control, it's mostly ceremonial. Brent leaned forward, voice sharp but cracking. The board will never support this. You mean the board members I've spent the last month meeting with? The ones who've reviewed the financial misconduct, the favoritism, the discrimination? Cassidy's polished nails tapped a nervous rhythm against her tablet. What misconduct? What are you talking about? I opened my briefcase and pulled out several thick, tabbed binders, 7 years of careful documentation. It's fascinating, I said, what executives will say and do in front of someone they deem irrelevant. Every inappropriate remark, Every shady transaction, every HR violation casually brushed aside. I recorded it all. You spied on us? Donovan snapped, his voice rising. Not quite. I listened, closely, like when you told Brent to adjust those quarterly numbers, or when Cassidy approved nepotistic hires while rejecting qualified applicants based on race or gender. Brent's hand darted toward his phone. I'm calling legal. Already handled, I said, nodding toward the glass doors as they opened. My legal team entered, led by someone Brent recognized immediately. His own brother-in-law, a corporate attorney I'd retained months ago. Now, I said, calmly walking to the head of the table, Donovan's old seat. Let's talk transition. You'll each receive severance packages, provided you cooperate fully and submit immediate resignations. And if we don't? Cassidy's voice shook beneath the bravado. I tapped a key on my laptop. The screen lit up with dozens of emails. Proof of unethical decisions, back-channeled deals, and internal cover-ups. Then this goes public, along with evidence linking you to the Langston contract fraud. That contract was valid, Donovan barked. The one where you altered the bid metrics to cover your forecasting error? I asked. That contract? No one spoke. Only Cassidy's soft, involuntary sob broke the silence. You've ruined this company, Donovan whispered, his pride crumbling. No, I said. I've salvaged it. Ridgeview Dynamics has been bleeding talent and relevance under your rule. All style, no strategy. That ends today. I stood, smoothing the simple black dress Cassidy had sneered at just last week, calling it clearance rack chic. You have 1 hour to vacate your offices. Security is waiting. Your personal items will be shipped once they've been reviewed for confidential materials, I said, standing firm. You have 1 hour. Cassidy's voice pitched upward, brittle and disbelieving. You can't seriously expect us to... The same 1 hour you gave Janet from accounting last month, I cut in, when you fired her for reporting harassment. Seems fair, doesn't it? By the time the sun reached its peak over Chicago, Ridgeview Dynamics had gone from a fortress of corporate elitism to the epicenter of the biggest shakeup in the sector this decade. By noon, the media storm hit. Mysterious investor unmasked, in stunning takeover of Ridgeview Dynamics. Phoenix Bridge CEO revealed, from personal assistant to billion-dollar powerhouse. Executive team ousted amid allegations of fraud and discrimination. I stood in Donovan's old office, now mine, watching headlines flood across the monitors. My phone buzzed with a storm of messages from people who'd ignored me for years. Lena, darling, remember those lunch chats in the lounge? Hey, about that project you were always working on. Was that real? Mrs. Rowe, about that promotion I passed on years ago. I deleted every one. Sarah, my new executive assistant, chosen because she reminded me so much of myself at 28, walked in with a stack of onboarding reports. The transition team is active. Also, your parents are in the lobby. Of course, the family fallout. My mother, who once declared I'd wasted my MBA by typing notes for men in suits. My father, who urged me for years to quit and find a husband who could take care of me. Send them up, I said, turning to face the skyline. It's time they saw what their unfocused daughter has built. They entered like tourists in a museum, eyes scanning the sleek office, the Phoenix Bridge logo gleaming where Ridgeviews had hung just hours ago. Lena, my mother whispered, her voice full of awe. Why didn't you ever tell us? I turned slowly, remembering all the dinners, the silences, the dismissal. Would you have believed me, or would you have tried to control it, like everything else in my life? But, assistant, my father sputtered. All these years, we thought. You thought what you wanted, I said quietly, just like everyone else here. My phone buzzed. TC formally opens investigation into former Ridgeview executives, charges pending. My mother stared at the screen, showing Phoenix Bridge's global portfolio. This company, what you've built, it's worth billions, I finished, meeting her gaze without blinking. Built from the ground up, I said evenly, while you were busy telling everyone I had a modest little office job. I turned from my stunned parents and back toward the window. Quite the different story now. A commotion in the hallway interrupted us. Voices, sharp, escalating. I opened the security feed on my laptop. Cassidy West, red-faced, was shouting at the front desk. "You can't do this to me. Do you have any idea who I am?" I pressed the intercom. "Security, please escort Miss West from the premises and confirm she isn't removing any company property this time." My father watched the screen, stunned. "They're saying Donovan West is under investigation for fraud." "Among other things," I replied calmly. "People do remarkable things when they think no one's paying attention." Especially the quiet assistant in the corner. Just then, Sarah returned. "Ms. Rowe, the board is ready for your presentation. Also, the Langston contract team has arrived for renegotiations." I smiled. Ridgeview had lost that deal once under Donovan's leadership. Sloppiness disguised as confidence. Not this time. "Tell them I'll be right there. And Sarah, order yourself a real desk. No more corner cubicles in this company." The afternoon passed in a controlled whirlwind. Presentations, restructuring meetings, new strategic roadmaps. I introduced a different vision, one built on inclusion, clarity, and merit. No more decisions made behind closed doors. No more brilliance buried beneath someone else's ego. By sundown, Ridgeview Dynamics was already changing. The old regime was gone. Janet from HR, who was fired after reporting misconduct, had been reinstated with back pay and a corner office. The developers Donovan ignored? They now led our flagship AI project. As light faded over the Chicago skyline, I stood in my new office, once Donovan's, and opened a drawer. Inside, my old nameplate. Lena Rowe, Executive Assistant. I set it down gently beside the new one, freshly engraved. Lena Rowe, CEO, Phoenix Bridge Capital and Ridgeview Dynamics. My phone buzzed, a message from Cassidy. "I hope you're happy. You've destroyed our family's legacy." I typed back, "No, Cassidy. I built something better. Something real." I looked out over the city lights, remembering the 7 years I'd spent observing, documenting, building quietly in the shadows while they talked over me. It was never about revenge, not really. It was about designing something that mattered, a company where value wasn't measured by who you knew, but what you brought to the table. A week later, I took the stage at my first all-company meeting. The main auditorium was packed. Faces I'd passed for years without a second glance now looked at me with wide-eyed curiosity. This time, I wasn't the one bringing coffee. I was the one bringing change. If my story stirred something in you, leave a comment. Tell me what moment hit hardest. Was it the boardroom reveal, the quiet build no one saw coming? Or maybe it was when I stood in front of people who once overlooked me and calmly rewrote the ending they thought they controlled. Your voice matters here. I read every message, so share your thoughts, your stories, your own quiet wins. And if you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever been told to know your place, then this space is for you. Hit that subscribe button if you believe in slow power, in quiet preparation, in building something no one saw coming, not because you're vengeful, but because you believe in doing things right. Because one day, the people who dismissed you will have to watch you take the seat they swore you didn't deserve. Let this be your reminder. You don't have to shout to lead. You don't have to dress loud, move fast, or chase credit. You just have to be steady, consistent, watching, listening, learning. And when the time comes, ready. So keep going, keep building, keep believing that your value isn't decided by someone else's title, bank account, or opinion. Because if I can turn coffee runs into boardroom strategy, if I can turn silence into influence, so can you. I'm Lena Rowe, and this is just the beginning. Your story deserves its moment too.